Hello, dear viewers. Today's date is August 19th, 2025, and we are conducting our regular analysis of the military events map. The key shifts remain on the South Donetsk and Pokrovsk fronts, which we will examine in detail and show in this video. On the Kherson sector, there are currently no significant updates or reports, so let's begin our review with the Orekhov front. On the Orekhov front, clashes continue around the settlements of Stepnogorsk and Malaya Tokmachka. Let's move to Stepnogorsk. In the vicinity of Stepnogorsk, Russian forces are striking Ukrainian fortified positions using FPV drones, as well as hitting temporary bases and reserves of the Ukrainian armed forces slightly north of Stepnogorsk, in the area of Primorsko and Veselyanka. Overall, the situation here comes down to positional skirmishes, without active assaults by Russian troops. Now about the settlement of Malaya Tokmachka. Here, positional battles have been ongoing for several weeks without pause. The front line in this area is extremely dynamic. Both Russian and Ukrainian forces are attacking each other's positions, not only with FPV drones, but also with artillery fire. Otherwise, the map today remains unchanged. We move further to the Guliai Pole front. On the Guliai Pole front, the line of contact has become more active. As is known, earlier Russian forces were pressing from Malinovka towards Poltavka, as well as from Levadnoye towards Olgovskoye. Today there are some minor gains in favor of Russia. Russian units managed to seize several trenches, as well as a small strip of land up to 2.5 kilometers in the direction of Olgovskoye. Thus, Russian troops have expanded their zone of influence west of Levadnoye. The entire area marked in red is now fully under Russian control. Continuing across the map to the settlement of Kamyshevaha. Here, Russian forces are attacking Ukrainian positions in the settlement, advancing from Zelenoy Pole on the southern side of Kamyshevaha and from Shevchenko on the eastern side. Everything indicates that in the coming days, this settlement may come under direct assault. Meanwhile, in the Andreevka-Klevtsovo area, the situation is extremely ambiguous. I remind you, both Russian and Ukrainian flags have appeared here multiple times. At the moment, a lot of unconfirmed information is coming in, so we await reports from reliable sources, from authoritative military correspondents, to make map corrections. For now, the map looks like this. The southern part of Andreevka-Klevtsovo is under Russian control, while the northern part remains a grey zone. As for the settlements of Zeleny Gai and Novokatskoye, from there Russian troops are striking Ukrainian positions near Ivanovka and Filia. Otherwise, the map today is unchanged. We now move to the settlement of Kotlyarovka. As is known, in this area in Donetsk region, only one settlement remains under Ukrainian control, Muravka. Earlier, it was reported that Russian forces were advancing from Kotlyarovka, bypassing Muravka from the southern side and striking Ukrainian positions inside it. There were multiple reports of Russian attempts to enter and secure the settlement, but without success. Today, however, the zone of control has expanded to the northwest of Kotlyarovka. The entire area marked in red has come under Russian control. The advance here reached up to 1.5 kilometers, and it is clear that Russian forces are maneuvering south of Muravka to cut off supply routes and then storm it to take control. In the coming days, storming operations are likely to begin here, with significant updates on the map expected. For now, these are the shifts. In the Udaknoye area, there are no major updates today, but reports indicate positional battles north of Udaknoye. Otherwise, that is the situation there. We now move to the Pokrovsk front. A lot of contradictory reports are coming from Rodinskoye and Krasny Liman. Pro-Ukrainian sources claim that Rodinskoye has returned to full Ukrainian control. The pro-Russian side, on the contrary, reports an expanded control zone around Rodinskoye and Krasny Liman. But neither side has provided confirming materials. All reports are in the form of news, so the map here remains unchanged. Also, several FABs have already struck Mirnograd. This point, marked blue on the map, is where a FRB hit in the past 24 hours. And yesterday, another FRB strike occurred on the eastern outskirts of Mirnograd. Those are today's updates. Let's move a little further north on the map to the settlement of Zolotoy Kolodets. As is known, Russian troops earlier entered Zolotoy Kolodets, but then Ukrainian forces cut them off from supplies. Now reports indicate that Russian troops have nevertheless entrenched themselves in Zolotoy Kolodets and are also expanding their control zone around Kucherov Yar. From this point east of Kucherov Yar, video material emerged showing Russian forward positions. The area marked in red is now fully under Russian control. Also in Zolotoy Kolodets, today 2 videos appeared from the Russian side and 1 from the Ukrainian side. Positional battles were taking place there between Russian and Ukrainian forces. From this, we can conclude that Russian troops are indeed present in Zolotoy Kolodets, despite the earlier cutoff from supplies. A bit further south on the map, near Pankivka, Russian forces are expanding their control zone and approaching the settlement. Today, video material came in from this point north of Mayak. This shows that Russian forces are moving towards Vladimirovka, and the entire area marked in red has come under Russian military control. Although pro-Russian sources speak of advances up to 5 kilometers, confirmed materials indicate that Russian troops have advanced up to 2 kilometers toward Vladimirovka. Moving a bit further on the map, east of Vladimirovka, 2 video reports arrived today from these points, showing positional battles between Russian and Ukrainian forces. The retreat line there reached up to 1.5 kilometers. Thus, Russian troops are approaching Vladimirovka not only from the west, but also from the east. In the coming days, significant updates on the map are expected here. Now we move further to the Chasov Yar front. Fierce fighting is ongoing around Nikolaevka and Stupochki. Reports are coming in of Ukrainian counterattacks on Russian positions, but no changes are reflected on the map. The same goes for all other front sectors. On the Seversk front, positional battles are ongoing without significant map changes. The Krasny Liman and Kupiansk fronts also consist of positional skirmishes without major shifts in the line of contact. It gives the impression that negotiations are currently taking place between the United States, Zelensky, and the President of Russia. The front in this sector appears to be on pause. Now let's discuss the meeting that took place yesterday at the White House in Washington. Negotiations between the US President, European leaders, and Ukrainian President Zelensky. A fairly large number of European leaders attended the meeting with Trump, but mainly those who actively support Ukraine in its war against the Russian Federation. It is worth noting that neither the Poles nor the Baltic representatives were in this delegation. A very interesting detail: why they did not attend this meeting. The next meeting may possibly be between the President of the Russian Federation, Putin, and the third one between Putin, Zelensky, and US President Donald Trump. Speaking of Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States, it was clear he was bored. At one point, he even seemed as if he wanted to yawn during the conversation with Zelensky, but managed to restrain himself because cameras were everywhere. Trump was clearly expecting something else. They sat at a large table, discussing things for a long time. Each of the European leaders said something. Ursula von der Leyen, for example, said that it was necessary to return all the children. Trump looked at her and added that this was not the reason why they had all gathered. Merz, as if he hadn't heard what had been said before, stated that we first need a ceasefire and only then a peace agreement. Trump responded that he had ended 6 wars and all 6 of them concluded immediately with peace treaties. "I've never in my practice had a ceasefire," Trump said. Overall, Trump felt quite confident, and it seems, or at least gives the impression, that after meeting with Putin, any other meeting with any other politician, whether it's Zelensky or any European leader, already feels boring to him. He wants to meet with Putin, he wants to meet with Xi Jinping, and of course with other leaders who more or less have their own stance and independent position. Despite the negotiations taking place in Washington, both the Ukrainian and Russian sides continued to exchange strikes, missile strikes and drone strikes. Today, the Ukrainian side reported that during the past night, the Russian side launched more than 280 aerial targets. This included both missiles and, of course, drones. The Ukrainian side claimed that 230 drones were destroyed overnight. A bit later, a map was also published. On this map, we can observe the exact flight routes of the Russian missiles and drones, and their specific destinations. This map was released closer to midday. It shows a large number of drone flight routes, but only 3 points where explosions occurred. Strikes were carried out on the town of Kremenchuk and its surroundings, on Slavyansk, on Kramatorsk, as well as slightly north of Kremenchuk, in an area near a settlement called Pesky. And according to objective monitoring footage, as well as various video and analytical materials that were published, the Russian side primarily struck energy infrastructure facilities, gas compressor stations, and an oil refinery. But here we must clearly and firmly understand one important detail so that it becomes part of our overall picture. Despite the fact that the strikes were carried out on energy infrastructure, they are not necessarily another stage of escalation in the confrontation between the Russian Federation and Ukraine. Instead, Azerbaijan's interests are heavily involved here. Let me remind you, just recently in Odessa, an oil refining facility or oil storage facility belonging to the Azerbaijani company SOKAR was destroyed. And in general, lately the Russian side has been closely tracking and targeting Azerbaijani economic interests in Ukraine, striking and destroying them one by one. In response, of course, the Ukrainian side is trying to retaliate. For example, today reports came in that during another raid by Ukrainian FPV drone operators, or simply drone operators, an oil pumping line transporting crude from Russian territory toward Ukraine and then onward to the European Union was completely disabled. This was the Druzhba pipeline. According to Ukrainian claims, it was completely destroyed. The Russian side has not commented so far, and so the Druzhba pipeline was destroyed, according to Ukrainian sources, before the Russian side launched its strike on Kremenchuk. Therefore, we need to clearly understand that today's strike on Kremenchuk is not just a barrage of Geran drones, UAVs, or missiles preceding another major Russian offensive, as we may have seen earlier. Rather, it is a retaliatory strike for Ukrainian attacks on energy infrastructure inside the Russian Federation, which themselves were conducted in response to Russian strikes on Azerbaijani economic infrastructure located in Ukraine. At least, if we follow various reports, information published online, and different analytical materials regarding the ownership of certain companies, this is the picture that is currently emerging.